on the NewsChannel 5 network. This is Open Line.
Hi everyone, I'm NewsChannel 5's Chris Conti. This is Open Line here on NewsChannel 5 Plus. We want to thank you so much for joining us here on this Thursday night. As always, if you want to call in and talk with us at all over the course of the next hour, our number here is 615-737-PLUS. It is 615-737-PLUS. Tonight's topic is a little bit of a heavy one, but an important one. We are going to be talking about suicide. If you or someone you know has maybe been affected by suicide or depression or are struggling in any way and have some kind of meaningful story that you want to share with us, please feel free to call in and join this conversation tonight. We want to make sure, though, that right off the bat that people know the number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which is 1-800-273-8255. So again, that number is out there for anyone who may feel like they need it over the course of this evening. As we get our dialogue started here on NewsChannel 5 Plus, the first thing we want to do is share a story with you. This is actually from a few years ago, but it still rings very pertinent. It's about a young man named Eli Irwin. Eli was struggling with a lot of issues when he was in high school, and he died by suicide a few years ago. We spent some time with his parents and some of those people who knew him really well to kind of talk about some of the ripple effects of what happened and also the impacts of his life and what it meant to some folks. So we will share that story with you now, come back and start this discussion.
Just getting through the day and just thinking about what we have.
We try so hard to hold on.
And kind of, you get a lot, you just lose yourself,
When life forces us to let go.
Well, hopefully, these memories will be just happy.
There is a certain kind of permanence to the strokes of Jason Irwin's brush.
There's that little hair.
It is a feeling he longs for.
I'm looking at him.
His works typically go for hundreds of dollars.
So this is some local stuff that I do around town.
But this latest portrait, he can't seem to let out of his hands.
I miss him.
Because before this was a painting, this was Jason's son.
This gap, me to him, right here, we have this real thing.
Eli Irwin's flowing blonde locks were rivaled only by his smile.
He's just a sweetheart. It's
very silly.
Which is why his mom and dad can't explain or forget this past January.
Not on our radar. No. Not that.
Jason knew something was wrong when he descended the stairs to the basement, in the same corner which has become his studio.
This space is Eli's room.
Is the spot where Jason lost his son.
Still, I can't believe it. That was it. He was gone.
The 16-year-old had taken his own life.
So there's this surprise element of it in the shock, along with the grief and the loss. Miles, would you like something to drink?
10 months later, this now family of 3 is no closer to finding understanding. Eli had struggled with depression, but like the canvas beneath his portrait, the signs were hidden.
Talking to him and doing the best we felt like we were doing, and but maybe he saw it as, we're just somebody else that's against him.
And the Irwins are hardly the only parents in pain.
You've got a whole community now who is at higher risk of suicide.
As the regional coordinator at Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, Samantha Nadler helped advise Eli's high school counselors in the days after his death.
No, it wasn't just him. Yeah, we saw several students die in the Middle Tennessee area.
Last year, 49 children under the age of 17 died by suicide in Tennessee. That's up from a 10-year low of just 31 in 2008.
It is important that we're having this conversation today because suicide is a silent killer and it is killing people because of the silence around this issue.
No need to tell that to Jason and Katie Irwin.
A lot of emptiness. You just want him there.
So imagine how they felt when Eli started coming back home.
These are the letters.
When Eli died, 2,000 people packed St. Henry's Church.
Everybody misses him. A lot.
Jean Marie Moles was one of them. In her eulogy, she told every person in the church to take out their cell phone. Then she said this.
And set a reminder on your birthday to write a letter to Katie and Jason telling them something they remember about Eli.
That was back in January.
Homemade cards, store-bought cards.
The letters have been showing up every day since.
I never met him, but I know he was a hero.
They don't come with priority postage, but to Katie and Jason, they are worthy of first class.
I feel proud of him.
Yeah, I was super proud.
Most are memories. Some, though, are from others dealing with the same internal demons as Eli.
I was able to recognize my depression and able to get help and begin a journey. My hope is to help others.
For me, he was a symbol of hope.
Having awareness and education around
Kids
suicide.
by planting seeds of kindness, belonging, purpose, and acceptance.
I hope they know what an impact he had on people, whether they knew him a little or a lot.
It's comforting to know that people are coming around to the idea of, well, let's talk about this. Let's figure some stuff out. Let's help these people or these children, you know, get help and get treatment or therapy or whatever it is they need.
I want to hug him so bad.
Most of this makes little sense.
It's almost like I'm getting to kind of touch him in a way.
But if they save one life, talking will be worth it.
You know, he's always going to be like this forever.
Suicide may be a silent killer, but Katie and Jason know silence is no way to be heard.
Maybe make a difference in people's lives for the better.
He was a great kid. Again, the reminder there, if you need help or want to reach out to someone, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number is 1-800-273-8255. You can also text 741-741, or there is also the state Tennessee suicide hotline number, which is 855-274-7471. We want to welcome our guests here tonight from the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, Misty Leitsch and Grace Eakin. Thank you both for being with us tonight. I know this is kind of a heavy topic for a lot of people, but still an important one, right?
Absolutely, and thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you.
So September is a
Suicide awareness.
interesting month for you guys.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a very busy month for us. There are a lot of statewide events happening across the state, and we actually see, unfortunately, during this time of year, we see an increase in the number of youth suicides across the state, oftentimes due to going back to school, report cards coming out, progress reports coming out, and those stressors being placed on the kids.
I know there's, you talk about that, I know there's some misconceptions out there, which is that, you know, the holidays and like those people just generally think, well, Christmas and Thanksgiving are generally the times when people really sink into depression, but the times when people are really, when these numbers go up, when people die by suicide, it's not necessarily during those months, right?
That's correct. So we often see suicide numbers increase in the fall and in the spring, where there's big times of transition.
Okay. And meaning what?
Meaning that, you know, for the fall, children are coming back to school, they're having to adjust to grades, to teachers, to new expectations, and in the spring we're seeing kids, the numbers increase around youth suicides due to transitioning back out of school, coming, you know, around around spring break, getting ready to either graduate and having to make major life decisions about what college they may be going to. If they're going to college, are they going directly into the workforce? Are they going to continue to stay at home and live? Are they moving out? So all of these major life decisions happening.
Yeah. What, you know, in that story that we just aired was a couple years old. And obviously I know for you guys, one death is too many. How, since 2016, how have the numbers changed? Have they changed? Has it gotten, has it increased? Has it decreased? Where are we right now?
I would love to say that they've decreased, but unfortunately we see them continuing to increase. Quite dramatically. So 2018 data has not been released yet by the CDC, but we anticipate the data from even 2018 showing an increase over 2017.
And where was 2017 based on 2016?
It was increased.
Oh.
So if we break it down by age groups, from the data from 2015 shows that for ages 10 to 14-year-olds in 2015, suicide was the 3rd leading cause of death. We saw that number increase to become suicide was the 2nd leading cause of death for ages 10 to 14-year-olds in 2016, and it remains that in 2017. So for ages 10 to 34, suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death.
Wow. It's just so sad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you just can't believe that it's actually, you know, with increased awareness, you can't believe that actually the numbers are going up, but unfortunately they are. And actually I saw something on a statistic today that it went up 33% since 2016 in half of the U.S. states. So that's just, I mean, it's heartbreaking, but there are so many different reasons behind it. It's a complex thing. And, you know, you just want to be there for all the families and the survivors that people leave behind.
I feel like we should get the stigma out of the way first, which is so many people say, well, if we talk about it, it's just going to happen more. First, why is that? Why is that out there? Why do people think if we talk about this, it's going to happen more? And why is that a misconception? Why is that wrong?
That is a great question. So suicide is not something that is necessarily discussed in households growing up, right? If you have a family member or a friend that dies by suicide, maybe it's not discussed as openly as someone who maybe passed away from a car accident. And so that kind of starts the ball rolling on stigma and it being a taboo subject. The reality is, whenever we can talk openly and directly and sincerely about suicide and have the confidence to be able to ask someone, are you having these thoughts? Are you having thoughts of suicide? It actually can decrease the person's anxiety, open up the line of communication, and immediately provide a sense of relief that the person now feels cared for. They feel not alone. They feel like they have someone they can talk to.
Because it's hard for people to admit, right? That they've even just had maybe the thought.
Absolutely.
There's something wrong with even just with it just entering your subconscious for a moment or two, and that it's bad to even just talk about that. Even, I mean, not that everyone, you know, goes through with it, but even just talking about the fact that, you know, I've been in a place where maybe it's entered my mind. For some reason there's the stigma out there that says, well, I can't even talk about that.
I'm so glad you bring that up. So we provide QPR trainings, which stand for Question, Persuade, and Refer. It's a 1-hour training and it's free. And during that training, we teach people, we go over some myths and try to debunk some of those myths. And one of those is just that, you know, why is there so much stigma around it? And one of the myths that we talk about is there's a statistic that shows 5% of the population have thoughts at any given time. And there's data to support that. However, I tell people, I think it's more like 95% of us have thoughts at any given time, because that 5% is captured from places where people actively go seek help for the thoughts that they're having. So they're communicating their ideations to someone. Most of us may not ever tell anyone we're having thoughts, but at some point in our life we've probably had a passing thought of suicide. And one of the outreach tools that we use is to be able to educate people that not all thoughts turn into behaviors.
Right.
And so if we can educate ourselves on the warning signs, the risk factors, where to get help, we can prevent those thoughts from turning into behaviors. Because suicidal people don't want to die.
Right.
That's not what they want. They want the pain that they are experiencing to stop. They want to end that lethal amount of emotional pain that they are in. And suicide is the only way that they can figure out how to do that.
Yeah. What do you want people to take away from this month that this month is out there? And also just want to remind people, if they want to call in, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-PLUS, if people want to just talk to us. I mean, this is the time to just have a conversation. If you've been impacted by it in some way, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there who have been impacted by it that also still afterwards, it's really hard it's really hard to talk about.
It is, absolutely.
In a lot of different ways. I mean, we did a story last year about farmers, like farmers who are struggling with suicide and depression, and it has become such a big problem in the farming community that they refer to it as the no casserole death. So when a farmer dies or someone in a farming community dies, the first thing that everyone in that community does is they bring casseroles over to a house to feed the family who's lost someone that they love. But they refer to suicide as the no casserole death because when someone commits or dies by suicide in a farming community, no casseroles show up to that house. And it's just telling of the overall, I guess, misconception about things where there's just this stigma about talking about it for some reason.
Sure. And in our agency, we do everything we can to help reduce that stigma. So we created a statewide farmers suicide prevention task force that's meeting to discuss ways to reduce stigma, to reduce suicides among the farmers population.
When it comes to kind of the helpline and the help that's out there, what do you want people to know? I mean, do you just, even if, like you said, even if the question is just fleeting through your mind, is that an instance where you would say, well, just call and talk to us, I mean, and we can help you? It doesn't necessarily have to be that you're all the way pushed to the edge, right?
Yeah, I mean, something that contributes to that is risk factors. Substance abuse is a big one. Big changes in your family, friends, big changes in your life anytime that happens. Being kicked out of school, that's a big one. There are so many different risk factors. So that fleeting moment and that fleeting thought plus risk factors, that almost always just increases increases that thought, and it maybe makes it happen twice a day versus once a month. And then mental health, huge one. Big risk factor. And so all those things, of course, it's a combination of things, but a lot of those are that fleeting thought plus a few others. So situational things that happen. But I would say anytime you have, even if you think that you might need on any level help, go ahead and get ahead of it. You know, the worst thing that happens is you call something that's free and you have a conversation with somebody. Once again, it's just opening your mouth and talking to people about it, and talking to somebody about it. And that way, too, you're better prepared if that thought does happen more frequently later. Then you know where to turn. You know who to talk to. I think that's super important.
Misty and Grace from the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, thank you both for being here. We are going to continue this conversation after a brief break. A reminder, if you do want to call in and chat with us, the number is 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We do have a few people on hold. We will get to you in just a moment, right after this break. Stay with us.